Good morning and welcome back. I'm Natalie and today we are going to be doing a sweet treat card decoration. So there's a number of different ways that we can create these, but also a number of different uses that we can use them for. So I've gone ahead and I've done a bit of a sketch now. The mug shape that I'm going to be using is from the Extended Design collection, which is the 125 file collection. Hi Deb, hi Linda. And you're going to need a bauble, one of these ones that comes into two parts, just to make life a little easier. Now this is going to be a good project for if you've managed to damage one half of a bauble but you've still got one that's okay. You're going to use the one that's okay. It's also good for if you want to make your baubles go further. Morning Thea. So I've done a little bit of a sketch and I've done a few different ideas for how we can actually lay this out in terms of the layers. So these are little cross sections through so that we can plan how our bauble's going to go together. Now what I would say with this bottom one is just bear in mind that if it has a loop on the bauble, that loop is going to move further apart if it's one of the ones like this one where you've got half of it on each side. Okay, so if you think about if you put the card like that so that it's going inside this gap here, you've got about probably the best part of 6 to 7 millimeters in there as a gap. Morning Carol. So once you've decided which one you're going to make, we can get started. So I'm going to be hopping across to the display for a bit, so I'm going to be missing a few comments, but if you carry on asking questions I will get back to you when we go back to the other view. So let's first of all cut canvas and swap over to the display. So here we go. So in canvas we have our mug shape already, and if we look in our layers palette we're going to see that it's grouped, but all the dashed lines are all individual, which we can take back out if we want to, and in actual fact I'm going to do that just because I don't want my card to be kind of weak in that area. So let's take all of those out and we can just delete those out. It's fairly obvious where we've got to put our score line in this case, so I don't mind taking that out. The other thing that we need to do is I'm going to take my heart shape out of that group as well. So I'm just going to lift it up, so click and drag and just drop it outside of the group. And that's so that I can move this out of the way and we can put on our circle shape instead. Now I've measured my bauble already, but to do that I'm just going to hop back overhead and I'll check there's no questions. And if you have something with a grid, so I have a dot grid here on my page, you can actually pop your bauble onto there, slide it up and down to find its widest point and then measure the dots. It makes life a little easier when it comes to measuring 3D objects. Okay, so just make sure that you take it apart and then you've got a nice flat base to move around. So what I'm going to be doing in terms of the bauble size is I'm going to be going either inside or larger, and then as we start to move out you're going to see that circle kind of shrinking so that we're kind of encasing the bauble. Okay, so that's just something to bear in mind, that if I say a certain size, if it's less than 60 millimeters, that just means that you're taking a measurement inside that bauble just so that we can have it all fit together nicely. Okay, so let's go back to display and we're going to add our circle. Like so. I'm just going to move it over here for now. If we go into our edit panel, we can change the size. Now obviously I measured in millimetres because I'm doing something that's accurate, so I just want to change to millimetres. It's going to make my life a little easier. So at this point we can go, okay, I want to do that to 60 millimetres. I'm going to put that in there. And because we've got aspect ratio ticked, it's going to do it to a height as well. And that can move over to our mug and we can get that in the centre. Okay. But I'm not going to regroup it just yet, okay, because I need a duplicate of that. So I'm going to go into layers, down to the bottom where it says duplicate, and there we go. So we have another one. So now when we bring this down, I'm going to go into the edit panel and I'm going to make this a tiny fraction smaller. 2 mil should do it. Okay. Now this means that if we move our heart just here, we're going to see it's by no means big enough. So we're going to want to make that bigger. And you're going to notice I'm not doing anything about in terms of changing the rotation. I'm just concentrating on the size. So let's make this a little bit bigger. We want it to go around our circle. A little bit bigger. Just so it encases it. And we've got a nice solid ring. A little bit more. Like so. So that's looking good. Then if we take it over to our mug, we can see that actually it's quite big when it looks on mug, but we should be okay. So I'm going to put that down like that. And the reason I'm keeping that separate is that's going to be out of a different colour. So we don't need it to be overlapping this section here. Okay, so at this stage, if we want to, we could go and do more layers. So let's go into our basic shapes and let's go for another heart layer. This one's going to have a scallop wavy edge. I'm going to do that rotation so that I can check my sizes, and we can see it needs to be a little bit bigger so it goes around nicely. A little bit more. Okay, so if we were to cut this at the moment, it's going to get so big up here. So let's see if we can just tweak that slightly so it's going to just fit a little bit better. So I'm just going to drag up this bottom end here and just down at the top here. I don't mind if it touches that heart just there. It's just looking a little bit too fluffy at the top. Okay. Now let's move this heart to one side for a second. Now, because this is so big, we don't necessarily want it to stay as a solid here. So what can we do from here? Let's zoom in first of all. And we're going to go up to our circle shape and we're going to add that to our mat. So I'm going to drop it back up here. We can take this down, shrink it up. Just going to take it a little bit bigger just so it's a bit easier to work with. Okay. So I'm just going to duplicate this around the outside. So we're going to get like a lace effect. So if you've got something that's like a decorative lace, we can just do the same technique of just duplicating a section and just moving it around. particularly on this top edge, not so much on the bottom, because obviously it's a little bit tighter on the bottom section. So just decide where you want that to kind of stop, and then move on to the next bit. And I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. And don't forget to also take a circle. I'm going to make that a fraction bigger, because it's going to be going underneath our heart. Okay. So now what we need to do is just try and make sure that we are keeping a nice space around that circle section. And we're going to take this one and let's use that subtract now. Then we can take our new shape and just hover it over the top so we can see how it's going to go together. So you can see that tiny difference in the circle. And that's not too bad actually for placement. I'm quite happy with that. Close enough. Okay, so now it's really down to how much decoration you want to put onto your mug. So if we go back up here to our mug piece, this is going to be the front, that's going to be the back, and what I would say is you're probably going to want to cut two of this outer shape here. One that has the aperture and one that doesn't, so that's why I haven't regrouped it just yet. But also, when this closes, you want to have kind of a contrasting colour in there, so it, particularly if you want to do things like a shape card, which you can do, then you want to have a pop of colour in there. So let's just get repeating really so much, and we're going to rotate that round, shrink it up to the top and to the bottom, up to the side, up to the side that way. Now at this point we're going to click again to get to our nodes, and we can just drag that out like so. So it's easier to do this on the part of the mug that's straight than trying to do it on here. And again, we're going to put that out separate because that's our liner. Okay. So let's just see if we can grab these sections of the heart. If you pick up that insert, just press and hold shift, click, and you'll let go. And we can use subtract that. Then we have our shapes that can move around as needed. Okay. So this project is really good for if you want to use offcuts and things. So you can work on your layers as much as you like, and you can create multiple layers. So it's a really good technique to do characters, and that's going to be coming later on in the month about how we can do cute characters. But I thought just to get you used to, first of all, setting it up so that you're thinking about the centre space first, then we can go from there. Okay, so let's go back overhead, that one even, there we go. so we have some nice thick card that we're going to be creating our base cards from. Okay. And this is a nice soft pink. I don't know if it's going to be coming across on screen nice and clearly. Looks a bit dark, to be honest. Hi, Mum. So it's like a really soft, warm pink. Nice colour. And we're going to be starting off with that. So grab your cutting mat. And I have given mine a bit of a clean. We'll see how it's doing for tack. Might just need a little extra help. Just press that down well. So from this card we're going to cut one mug with the aperture and one mug without the aperture. And that's it. ScanNCut. It's gone back off to sleep on me again. Okay. And we're going to load in on that. Now, if I hop back to display, rather than sending everything at once and then having to delete things out, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hide those things that I don't want to transfer. So that is those top three elements, and then we can send that. Now bear in mind that when we do this send, this section here isn't all grouped together. That circle's still separate. It's just something to bear in mind if you're moving things around the mat. So, export, okay, send via Wi-Fi, okay, and we should be good to go. So, back to the machine, retrieve data and cloud. Okay, you can see that's not too bad. Now, I said that we need to cut a mug that is also solid. So I'm going to go into edit. I'm going to use my arrow keys, and it's going to go between the aperture and the group of the mug. So you want to have the group selected, object edit, number 2, okay. And just drag down that new copy. So you should have something on your mat that looks like that. I'm going to go OK. OK again. And these are pretty simple designs, so we can just go for our standard autoclave. There's nothing complicated there in terms of corners or things like that. So I'm going to go OK. Please select cut. And turn half cut off if you've been doing vinyl. A cut speed, again it's basic shape, so you can leave it about 2 to 3 if you're competent. If you're not, just leave it as 1. Cut pressure, -6. I might just take that down a notch to -7. And I'm going to go OK. And now we can set that to cut. So while that's cutting, we need to kind of pick out some other colours to work with. And let's go for, there isn't much of our kind of deeper red left, but I think we might just be able to get something out of that. And in case not, let's just put another piece that's kind of similar but not quite. So you want something that's got a good bit of contrast between the red heart and the light lacy bit. So if you want to go red and white and go full on traditional, you can. If you want to do shades of the same red, that's fine too. One of those colours is going to go inside as well. So let's have a look. Let's get the palette knife, always helps. And we have one card with an aperture and one card without. Okay, now the moment of truth. Dun, 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 dun. Slide this over the top. Now, if you have two halves that you're choosing from, you can decide whether you want to have that one with a little lip, which you might do, and then do some 3D foam to stick this bit together, or if you just want to have the flat one. I think for now I'm going to go for the flat one, and that should be nice and gripped in there. So if it's sitting a little proud, that's good, because that means that when we seal the back up, it's going to be holding that into place. Okay, now before we seal anything, we'll set that to one side, and we'll come back and do the scoring in a minute. So let's go to canvas and back to the display. So we've done this bit and we can hide that now because we don't need that anymore. Next I'm going to do the sections that are going to go inside that sealed unit. So where we do the contrast card, you're going to want that to go in there. So with this piece you've got a couple of options. You could just put that over the back of the aperture bit and just leave this as a folded card, particularly if your card is super stiff. However, if it's a little bit thinner and you want it to have a bit more body, then do what I'm going to do. So let's send that to my cutting machine. Okay, fire Wi-Fi. I'm back to ScanNCut. I'm going to go OK. I'm going to reset because we don't need those bits anymore. I'm going to go retrieve data and into the cloud. And then we have our little insert panel. So I'm just going to take these spare bits off my mat and just load up my red. Now, I should be able to get it into this bit here. So let's see. Pop that onto my mat. Let's do a background scan. So we want to be doing this whenever we've got pieces that are missing out of a piece of card, so that we aren't accidentally cutting on that. Okay, so I'm going to take my shape. I'm going to hover it over the top until I find a place that it will fit. Just there will do. Okay, and if you need to double check, just lighten that scan and you're going to be able to see where exactly your shape is going. Okay, now because you've got quite a few holes and bits missing out of the card, if your mat isn't super sticky, then this is where you want to use just a little bit of tape so that you are holding that card in place. I think we should be okay for a nice basic shape like this. So I'm going to go OK, cut, start. So if you found that your bauble's quite a loose fit, or is not lost, you could use a little bit of hot glue just to seal it in. The other thing to bear in mind is that once this card is sealed, it's going to be torn apart to kind of gain access to it. So a little suggestion that when you've actually stuck in your contrasting card, you could actually go back and do like a perforated circle so that somebody could actually tear through it rather than having to disassemble the whole card. If that's something you'd like to see next time when we do the character design, do say. Let's just go back overhead for a minute. So let's grab some tape and we can get sticking. Okay. So first of all, if you've cut from texture card, just make sure you've got the texture card upside down. And you want to stick this fairly well because obviously when it's all sealed it's going to be pulling on the tape to a certain extent. And let's get this right to these corners, like so. Okay. God blimey, time is whizzing by. So I'm going to stick this on here. Now, obviously, if you really wanted to be frugal with your card, you could just do it so it's just the size of that circle. But then it gets a little bit more fiddly when it comes to assembly. Okay. Rubber bone folder, and we're going to fold down the centre line. Now, next thing to bear in mind, I should have said this before, is just bear in mind where you want your handle to be, because obviously it's going to seal up and whether you're right-handed or left-handed. There we go. So a nice score line, and I'm going to take that round like so. Okay. And before I apply tape or anything, I'm just going to crease that fold. So you should have something that looks like that. Now we want to pop in our tape. Now I'm going to go round the outside first, but if you are filling your bauble with little shaker pieces that are tiny, then what you're going to want to do is just fill the gaps around so that you don't end up with a floor that is decorated with sparkles. Okay, so for the purpose of this video I'm not going to film mine, but this is the point where you would start to put things in your bauble ready for sealing. You want to make sure you take all the backing paper off. Make sure you get the right half of the bauble. And I'm just going to slot that in. Now, if you want to still hang this, make sure that your loop is at the top and you can still thread your string through before you do this next bit. So then when you're ready and your bauble's filled and good to go, we're going to go over the top and then we're going to press it down around the edges. Okay, so now we have our shaker or our filling ready to go, and it's all sealed up. Okay, if you've done your perforated circle, you're going to have that ability to go in through the back here. Okay, so then it would hang and off you go once you've done your front layers. If you want to do this as a card, this is why we did another one. So I'm going to grab the scoreboard again. Score down the centre. Okay. So now what you need to do is just have a very quick think about where you want your handle to go. Okay, so you could fold it so that handle's on the back of your folded card, so you end up with two handles when it opens like so. You could have it so that you have it that way round and you just have the one handle. So this is the point that you make a decision. So just because my card's a little bit thinner than what I would normally like, I'm going to do the handle to the left, just so it's not going to be flapping and getting damage potential. Okay, so I'm going to place my tape here. And again, if you've perforated the back of your section here, don't forget to also do that to this one. Okay. So I'm going to fold that in that way. Flip it over and just reinforce that. In what way is Facebook playing silly what's-its, Louise? Is it not giving you reminders? Okay. So, if you have some detailed tape to hand, you can use that. I've just torn a few little pieces just to get me round the bend. Okay, and we're going to remove all the backing. What time are we on? You should be alright. Oop, don't do that. There we go. Okay, so we have our bauble card. I'm going to place that over the top. Try and line up that square edge. There we go. have somewhere that we can write a little message. And if you want to repeat that lining piece in here, you could do, and then onto that you could foil or draw your sentiment, particularly if you don't like your handwriting like me. It would be very nice filled with sweeties. My other thought was, given that it's mug, it'd be nice to have some little marshmallows in there. Or you could even, if you've really done a good job with sealing, say this really good job with sealing, you're going to have to make sure it's like perfectly stuck all the way around, is you could actually do some hot chocolate in there. So that you can do your hot chocolate and marshmallows all in one. Add squared cream on top, job done. And if you really want to get into this design, where we've done this little sandwich, what you could do is just stick another piece of card where you've actually got the cream on top, so that you've built that up with your basic shapes. So it's cool. But I thought I'll start off nice and simple before I get too intricate and complicated, because I know what I'm like. Okay, so we've got this far. Now we need to do our decorations. So let's go back to canvas, back to display. You can hide or insert for now because we don't need that anymore. And then we can reveal our other two heart shapes. So to try and save time, we can cut these at the same time with the two colours loaded on the mat. So I'm going to go for the big 12 by 12 piece and trim that. So if we count the squares on our grid, we can see that a 6 by 12 strip should do for our heart. So let's just chop our card at 6 inches. No one. It's because I just my blade the other day. Bear with me a moment. I'm going to have to reverse that background. It's not wanting to work. Should have bought me a one in one. Okay. All change. Okay. Ding, 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 ding. Very quick adjustment. So back to 6 inches. There we go. So we've got our card. I'm going to pop that onto my mat. And the other piece is 5 by 5 very roughly. So let's make sure we have a piece of card that's big enough. Whether I go for a darker card, or I might go for light pink. So oh come on, let's go for it. Let's go for it. That should be plenty. So I'll put those two pieces of card onto my mat side by side, and I can send this to the machine. Okay, transfer. Okay. So, and let's go back to the ScanNCut. I'm going to go and reset. I'm going to pop back to Streamlabs so I can see any comments. Carol says no squirty cream. Okay. Retrieve data on the cloud. We can still do a background scan If nothing else, it'll stop you getting confused with the one that's already on the mat. But you can turn that off as well if you are working with probably 12 pieces of paper that you don't want to scan. Okay, so I'm going to move this heart shape up here. And this one up to the top as well. Okay, and I'm going to go to cut. Now we've got some little circles here that are going to take a little bit of a tighter turn. So what I would say is just consider whether it might be worth reducing your pressure, but putting your cut mountain up on the DX, or if you're on your CM, you might want to reduce your pressure on the blade up instead. Okay. I think I might just go for it. I've already reduced it down once. Let's see if we can get that to capture a view, as this will be the end of our cutting. It might just be a tad too close. Let's see if we can get that way. Morning, Jill. Okay, so far we've made our mug, and for whatever reason my camera up top is upside down. Let's see if we can just sort that very quickly for you. 180. There we go. So my mug's not upside down. So we have two that are stuck together, one which has an aperture in for our bauble to slot into, and one solid one that is the inside of our card. So the mug file you can get from the 125 file extended collection from your Canvas workspace. And then we have our centre heart. And we have our bigger one. Now I'm just going to get my palette knife for this because our card's a little bit thinner. Okay, so let's pop back overhead. So you can see that there's our heart with its little lacy detail. So I've just used circles. Obviously when you have more time you can make that as complex as you want to. And that's going to fit over the top now. Offer it up first because that's going to show you how many layers of foam tape you're going to need to do. So I should get away with about one, I think. But what I'm going to do is apply one, don't take off the backing. Okay, and another point to make, I'm going to do this to my card rather than the heart shape. We can always add more around the outside if we need to support it in different places. But around the bauble is where we really need to make sure that we get that truly sealed in and locked in. because we haven't applied any hot glue at all to that bauble front. It's just held in by your card layers as you build them up. So it makes it a little bit safer for if you are putting in things like sweets that don't have their own wrappers. Now what I would say is, if you are planning on selling these, try and stick to sweets that are in wrappers. Just makes life a little bit better in terms of food safety certificates and all the rest of it. Okay, so with those on, I'm just going to place my card over the top and let's just see how it's going. Okay, so do one more layer for this first one. Now we can peel the backings off. We're going to put another layer over the top. Okay. It's a good opportunity to make sure everything's pressed down well. Anyway. Okay. So next set of dots. I'm going to go all the way around, doubling up. So even if you think something is like sticking up more than the rest of it, like here, unless it's actually over something that's solid, so in this case we've got the loop of our bauble just here, then you would put another sticky dot. But if it's solid underneath, then you know it's going to prop that bit up anyway. Okay, so we're getting there. Nearly completed our circle. There we go. So again, don't remove the backing. We're going to give it a quick test. Just check it's getting to all those sticky sections. That's looking pretty good actually. Let's just get around there. Because you want it to be reasonably tight. So okay. Now our original heart shape kind of went at an angle, so decide if you want to have it kind of off to one side, and we'll go for it there. I'm going to give a good press down. So now you can decide if you want to puff up the rest of that heart with some more 3D foam pads, or if you're happy just to let it kind of rest between the sandwich when we put the next layer on. So let's get the next one. And we're going to go over the top again, and this one is 1 mil smaller again, so it's going to go up that bit more. So with this one, I'm probably going to want to be a little bit more precise about where this is going. So I'm going to stick my foam dots this time to my heart itself. Now you don't want these to go right up to the edge like we did with the last one. And we're going to go for 2 again. Okay. for layer 2. So when it comes to things like this where you've got lots of intricate shapes intersect with each other, I find the round dots just that little bit easier to get into places. It's a little bit harder to source though, so what you could do is have some of the larger square ones and just cut them down into tiny squares. Do it that way. Sticking to me, don't want that. Now this is one of the few projects where I would say you can't really swap your foam pads to cut multiple layers of cardstock, just because canvas can't handle like fractions of millimeters, which is what you would need to be able to do. Okay, so before I peel all these off, I'm just going to double check again, just in case I still need to add another layer. This should be okay. So there's just this one here that's not quite meeting up, so what I'm going to do is just lift that bit card when it comes to placing these down. This one. Okay. There we go. I haven't invented a 3D foam yet that comes in dots that it's easy to get the backing papers off. It's like having confetti everywhere, or the backing of red liner tape. You'll find dots for days, especially if you're working on something like this where you've got lots and lots of them. Okay, so over the top, try and get it lined up, and press that down. It's going to sound like you're kind of breaking it, but it's okay. There we go, and then just work your way around. Just check all your dots are attached to the layer behind, just in case you need to pull anything up. And once you get used to doing things like this, then you can start to work on actually embossing these layers behind, so it kind of covers your 3D foam a little bit more. There we go. So we have our little sweetie card. So if you wanted to have it so the handle was the other side, you would just create those layers the other way around and you'd be good to go. Or like I said, you could, on this inner card, reverse it so that you have a handle each side. So I hope you've had fun, and that's given you some idea of where we will be going when we get onto cute characters. So that's going to give you the start of your skill set. So what I would suggest doing is having a practice with that one. Then when we get onto cute characters, you can kind of relax a bit more into creating your actual character layers rather than worrying about this section too much. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed that for today. A few little bits and pieces to say about. There are going to be some collab lives that are going to be coming up, so that's going to be really fun. They're going to look a little different to how we look at the moment, but it means that, for example, Deb and I could do a live together, B and I, or even, you know, you might find that you have SJ and B doing a live together, which would be cool. The other thing is, I said ages ago about doing an Affinity workflow workshop. So that is going to be going live for you to sign up to. Now, there will be a launch video because we're going to do the pricing structure a little bit differently. So I'm going to kind of go through that in a bit more detail as to how we're going to do it. And that's just so that I can make sure that we end up that it's worthwhile doing in terms of income. So do watch that, and there will be new opening titles coming soon as well, which will be cool. And thanks, Linda. I think it's cute. When I saw that the base card on the designs this morning, I was like, oh yeah, that'd be really nice to do that as a little like Valentine, so that you could put like little heart sweets in there. Almost looks like it's filled when it's like that. It's quite weird. Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Thea. Oh, I do try my best. So I've tried consistently throughout all the different classes to try and teach something that's a little bit different in terms of technique. Because there's so many ways that you can do the same thing on ScanNCut. It's sometimes just a question of thinking about how you can actually break it down. And thank you, Louise, too. So, watch this space when it comes to the launch of that workshop. And I do hope that you will all join us for that one. So that's going to be going right from having a blank page idea to actually producing a craft range. So it's going to be well worth doing that one. So if you are into digital crafting, if you want to create your own papers, your own stamps, dare I say, your own dies, then it's definitely going to be the one to join in with. So thank you all, and don't forget to watch Deb's premiere on Friday. So that will be at 11 o'clock and it will be over on YouTube. And what I'll do is I'll share the link into the event. So if you go onto the Planner Craft page, there's a little events tab and you can see what's coming up. So thank you, B, for a fabulous live Monday just gone. And you have Sarah John coming up on Monday next week. So you've got something really fun. Put it this way, if you want to know how to cut your own stencils, next week is going to be the one for you. So have fun for now, and bye.